Welcome back to finals weekend here at HGG. We are down to the last 8 teams, and we're going to find our first semi-finalist very soon. We have Derek Brown to guide me through whatever we're going to be guided through. Hong Kong, Chinese, Taipei, the 2 remaining teams in the winners bracket. Derek, you've seen all the teams. Who do you think is going to be?
I think it's going to be very, very close. I am personally a little bit biased, even despite having cast all of Asia Pacific Grandmasters. I feel like the European team, or the European group that we have coming on tomorrow, is a little bit more fearsome. You know, it's nothing against the Asia Pacific teams at all, but when you're talking about the likes of Norway that you've got in there, as well as, I mean, well, even the UK at this point, they are a very, very competitive team, I think, with Boar and Dead Draw. So I think if I had to put my money on any team, it would definitely be one of the teams playing tomorrow. But from what we've seen, I think it's been very, very good stuff from Hong Kong so far.
Yeah, I mean, I was right behind Japan for this one just because of the Possessi Rogue, but
Right.
Didn't work out for them very well in that previous game. The Rogue did get banned, so that did give them some advantage, but I think we're going to see quite a lot of this today. The Shaman and the Holy Wrath Paladin. The only counter, really, to Shaman at the time of deck submission.
Yeah, that's definitely what it's being touted as at the moment, which was kind of part of the thinking of New Zealand's strategy, right? Where they wanted to go one level further, where if level 1 is Shaman is good, level 2 is Paladin beats Shaman, then level 3 is we got to counter the Paladin however we can with Bomb Warrior and nonsense like that. Yeah,
they did that in the qualifiers as well. They basically targeted Control Warrior, which was like the 3rd best deck all the way through there. Right. It's kind of pointless targeting the best deck because it's the best deck for a reason. We've learned that over the years.
Sure.
But targeting what is quite clearly the 2nd best deck for this particular event. An interesting idea, but it does mean you have to play some pretty janky stuff, which didn't work out for him in the first game of the day. And although this is a counter in theory to Shaman, it still isn't a particularly amazing matchup. It was just a deck that could contend with Shaman.
Yeah, I think it's just the idea that a lot of Shaman's early game power is its reactivity. It's not necessarily its proactively strong game plan. Like getting a 2-1 rush is obviously very powerful at fighting for board. In terms of actually dealing damage, it's, you know, not that devastating, and a quick Consecration or Pyromancer will be able to deal with it very easily. Yeah.
No mutate here for the Mogu. That's obviously a big deal.
It is indeed.
Now you get a 10 drop, not an 8 drop when you mutate it.
The amount of people I've seen on Twitter who seem to unironically be saying that it's a buff is staggering to me.
I didn't realise I'd become
it's a
that
good
person.
Meme. It's a good meme, but it is so much worse at 9 mana. It's not even close.
Of course, yeah, it takes you... It's not just the extra turns it takes you to play it. It means your opponents don't have to panic about, do I totem, do I hero power, do I play a minion?
Right.
They can just go about their game plan because it's not going to be playable until, let's say, at least turn 4 or 5, even in a crazy game.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not exactly a formidable force of minions right now, but as we know with the Galacon Shaman, it's not really this bit that matters, although it's nice. It's the later bit that matters when they start making 8/8s.
And I think the fact that, like you said, is the fact that it's the later bit that matters definitely speaks to Fung's play here, because he had the pretty powerful play of Pyromancer Subdue, clear the entire board, get a 3-1 in play, start fighting back against this early game chip damage. But he, in my opinion, correctly realizes saving this Pyromancer, saving this Subdue is more important for a Mogu into 8-drop or a couple of 8/8s off the Galacron or a Dragon's Pack that you have to have an answer to. And so I think just taking the chip damage early on is perfectly fine.
Yeah. Yeah, this stuff's not going to kill you. Not anytime soon, anyway.
I hope you like my invention.
Not really. I mean, it's irritating. You don't want to be taking it, but you can't kill everything, so I like this a lot. Starting to get a little bit more of an emergency now. 7 a turn. 6 a turn's quite a lot.
Yeah. Definitely want to be doing something. The good thing, though, is, of course, compared to the Evolved Shaman, you're never afraid of Bloodlust. So what you see is basically what you get in terms of damage if you want to try and take it a little bit later game.
Yeah, much easier to sort of play the game when you know what you're playing. Strangely enough. When you're worried about Evolves, you just don't know what was going to be in the box. Very. It does go with
the Pyromancer clear here eventually, which, although I was saying, you know, I would have liked to have seen saved for a Galacrond or something like that. It does make sense, I suppose, because he wants to start playing his mana for card draw as opposed for clearing on the next couple of turns, and it does make development a little bit scarier for an arena, I suppose.
Yeah, it gives Hong Kong an extra turn now, in theory, as well, where they can just get these novices onto the board and actually start proceeding with their own game plan.
Yeah.
Which you've got to do at some point. Oh, Holy Wrath Paladin hands always look so terrible because
they really
it's just all card draw.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden they have 4 cards left in deck and they just win.
Yeah. Yeah, down to 15 already, and they haven't done anything yet. Quite a lot of forward planning here, obviously, already. When do you use the timeout? When do you use the Zephyrs? All that will be thought about now. Obviously, realising that Zephyrs can't be used now, but you've got an idea of roughly when it becomes usable. If you're going to play the Novice Engineers, I'd like to see one played, like, pretty soon. Just give yourself some more information about what you're actually drawing. You might draw a Hammer of Wrath, for instance, which you're going to want to play.
Now he's got the Flash of Light. Probably want to save that to go with Kangor, I think, given that the bit of damage that's coming through now is starting to get pretty scary.
Did you choose to play it? I mean, hand space can be an issue and you've got 2 mana chilling, so I guess that was their view there. I kind of like with you. I like the double heal personally.
Yeah, I think so, because like burst damage is not a huge consideration, but of course once Galacrond comes down, if it's got the claw attached, the Arcanite Reaper effectively, that's when your health becomes pretty valuable actually, because that can stack up quicker than you think. Yeah, I guess Feywing is a aggressive option as opposed to Deathwing for a more defensive one, makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, you're trying to force cards out of your opponent's hands. It's not just the cards you force out, it's the time it takes them. When they're killing your things, they're not developing their board.
True.
Sorry, developing their card draw. They don't really develop a board, let's face it.
Yeah, they're not happy with that at all. That's pretty timely.
Yeah. They're not going to mess with it. You don't actually need to kill the things, right? You just turn them to one attack is good enough.
Yeah, that should probably be good enough. As an arena is going for some very, very complex explanations in his mind of how the Shaman versus Paladin matchup goes out.
This is probably the only matchup that any of the teams got decent testing time on.
I wonder.
Sure, yeah.
Because they had no idea what the other team was going to bring the rest of the matches. They know this is coming, they know that Shaman was coming, so they will have tested quite a lot of this.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you know, you had no idea. You knew that people were going to bring Rogue, but Rogue wasn't defined at the time. So you had no idea what was going to happen with the Rogue decks. And then the fourth deck, you just had no clue whatsoever. I mean, even in this one, you've got the Rogues, then you've got Mech Hunter on the side of Chinese Taipei, and you've got Face Warrior on the side of Hong Kong, so...
Yeah, it's a bit of a awkward mix, and I imagine, you know, if we'd held deck submission this weekend instead, even ignoring the nerfs that would come in, we probably would have been seeing stuff like maybe more Handlock, which has been popping up from more players, maybe some kind of Mage that players have been experimenting around with and having some amount of success with.
Yeah, I am surprised there's very little or no mage in this event. I thought mage looked pretty good on opening day. Well, sorry, nothing looked pretty good because Shaman existed, but I thought mage looked definitely a candidate for fourth deck.
Yeah.
So I would not be surprised if, with more time, because Highlander decks can take a while to get right, if mage becomes quite strong indeed over the next couple of weeks.
First Holy Wrath coming down. Totally okay with this. Just again keep the card draw going.
Cats love being on stream, don't they?
I think that's a dog.
Is it a dog? I guess it's wagging its tail like a dog. So there's a clue.
Yeah, I think you might need to take a closer look at your cat, Neil, if you think that's a
One
that's
of
a
my
cat.
cats does think it's a dog. But enough about my cats. It was raised by dogs. Alright, they've generated pressure after pressure. Picked up the Galacrond. So in a good spot, you would think, from where they're sat, but Paladin down to 6 cards already.
Yeah.
Effortlessly as well to the, I don't know, the uneducated observer. This has just looked like really straightforward.
I wonder.
Always one of the bigger decisions when to use those timeouts. This looks like
I
a
think
good
this
time
is-
because next turn you get your Chevalier turn.
Yeah, this seems like a perfectly good one. Next turn, like you said, Chevaler Sathravar, or Chevaler Sathravar, just to absolutely dominate the board back in your favour.
I think we need to get the design team to give a pronunciation guide every new set.
I think we do.
Not that it would help me because I can't say words anyway, when I know what they are, but yeah, might help other people.
I remember we had to get a official ruling from Shad Nervig on King Phaoris, because there was like Pharis, Fauris,
Oh, right.
Fauris. Yeah. Everyone was saying it differently.
Yeah, I can see how that could happen. There was a card we did that before a long time ago as well, but I can't remember what it was now.
Emperor the Russian.
As long as the game isn't called Hearthstone, I don't mind.
So Narina obviously does not want to overextend, I suppose, quote unquote, onto his board too heavily with Galacrond quite yet, especially as he wouldn't even be able to get the attack through to face with the weapon. So I agree with holding on to that for a turn.
Yeah, they put
And
exact
then
lethal on the
push
board.
through thereafter. All good.
I mean, there's like a 0% chance that you ever actually get all 5 of these into the face and the Paladin doesn't heal, but they put
Right,
exact lethal on the
right.
board. That's a rule of thumb to live by.
I wonder.
Trying to look what the other options are here that they're considering. Like the Chevalier Sacrifice turn looks just straightforward. I guess they're looking for anything else that they could be missing. There's double consecration in hand. No reason not to use their time.
It's time to test your metal.
Back to 30, and just got to resist the 8/8, then all will be well.
Yeah, looking pretty good at this point, it's got to be said. Even with a a Galacrond coming down on the other side, even with a Faceless Corruptor thrown in there as well, if you like, to be able to take out these Chevalers. It is just looking like one should be able to fight this off pretty easily.
Yeah, and it's just always incredible to me how Paladin does this, but the new version is so much better. Just the addition of Sathravar's given this option of Well, you can't kill me, or we're actually just going to beat you down with 7/5s. In those late game turns, that is so important to have that extra option. And the deck was good before. In case anyone needed the reminder, there is the reminder. This was played before the nerfs. Wouldn't really have been fair to get them to submit and then play the next morning. So they did get a... Well, they only got 3 days playtesting as it was, or 4 days. They submitted on the Sunday.
Yeah. It was enough to have like a little bit of a pootle about. Shaman had obviously been discovered. A pretty robust form of the deck had already been discovered. By that.
So robust, I think they're almost all very close to identical in this event. Sort of went through looking for differences, and there aren't many, I seem to remember.
It's time to test your metal. Let's test that.
Oh, Baleful Banker.
One shot. One.
Such an innocuous looking card. Wait, what? Okay, thank you. That works. I was confused for a second.
Apparently my voice has been sounding weird.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. I was just I can't hear the weirdness, but
Is it
quite
back?
clear. To me, it sounds fine.
Oh.
But chat seemed to think it sounds great.
Ah, brilliant. Yeah, what do you know?
Deep voice, Derek.
I thought it was just because I had a cold, but apparently I'm actually turning into a robot.
Yeah. You sound fine to me, so that's all that matters, Derek.
All right. Yeah, this is all for you, Nick.
Doesn't matter what everybody else thinks.
Now for an arena, we are of course looking at a Cave Barista Lynchin and then play the second Corrupted Elementalist, which allows you to clear off all the important minions from the board, to be fair. And then maybe, from that point, he can outlast the damage from Fung, because he has that little bit of armor. And given that one Holy Wrap has already been played, it might be enough.
Yeah, Zephyrus tends to take care of the additional, but you're right, it could just be enough to mess things around. The problem is they haven't got a counter-attack. I mean, just being Galakron is kind of a built-in counter-attack in its own right, but I think with careful planning of what you get with your Zephyrs here, it should be okay for Hong Kong.
So what is he looking for then? Is this just a Tyrion turn and then you ignore the extra damage that can come with the Soulfire?
Shaman can't remove the weapon, right?
No.
Yashbringer.
Yeah.
So Tyrion seems good, yeah.
Okay, I'm on board with that. I mean, actually, they can Earth Shock it, and I don't think Earth Shock has been played so far this game.
Okay.
Oh no, wait, it's not in the deck because for Chinese Taipei. It's only in.
Oh wow. Okay,
Hong
'cause
Kong,
it's in
so-
nearly all of them.
Yeah. So this is fair game, easy peasy Tyrion. I agree. There's no real counterplay to it.
So draw Shudderwock is a good plan here. Card that won't go away.
Man, that breakpoint though on the 5 attack versus the 6 health on Tyrion, it's just a nightmare to try and get through here. So maybe the
And also, okay, yeah, I was gonna say the mana doesn't work because they want to hero power to break the shield and then use the faceless to use the 2
Right.
5s. But because of that mana consideration, choosing to try and find a better option with the Farsight.
They could have gone Devoted Maniac and then copied that or corrupted one of the things that came off of that. But sure, this is fine as well.
Yeah, this worked out okay. I mean, nothing's working out particularly okay, but as okay as they were going to get.
Yeah, the problem is that OK is just not really good enough here until they find Shudderwock later on to refill their hand and obviously get 8/8s and the weapon again. I'm just not sure if it's going to quite come together.
So, yeah, getting the Vargoth for the second Farsight. Desperate digging.
Yeah.
Well, that shuts down the weapon.
Probably would have
Short
liked to have seen a weapon swing there from an arena, though, I think. Just because, you know, if you get Shuttlebot next turn, which you do need to start preparing for, you would definitely have liked to have had the weapon already swung with on that turn.
I guess they want to make sure they can take care of some 7/5 Chevalars over the next few turns.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily relevant because you get 25'd in the face,
Yeah.
but...
Chevala just being played out here. That feels like a bit of an unnecessary risk. Unless both Holy Wraths have been played so far, which I don't think they have.
I don't think they have either, but for some reason, even though it's only counting to 2, it's notoriously difficult to keep track.
Reporting for duty.
Because sometimes they let off a cheeky hammer when you're not looking, and suddenly you don't know which one went.
Oh, I think there's another one in the deck, right? Because Sathravar
Yeah,
has been
I
played
think
on a
there is.
banker as well. Okay, yeah. In that case, fine. As long as he's not just throwing away his Chevala here.
Yeah, he's not
I'm
just
happy.
dumped doing the Chevala.
Yeah. So, Faceless Corruptor, able to clear off most of the board. The entire board actually able to be cleared off on this turn.
Because why not with a 4-mana 2/2?
Yeah, I mean, you just don't have any other
5-mana
choice.
5/4.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't that clear an entire board? What a silly deck. Looks like this deck's actually now quite a well-balanced deck. Now it's been taken care of to some degree.
Yeah.
Hasn't been killed. I was quite surprised the hero power didn't get a nerf, but it seems to have worked out well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the main thing that people were afraid of was just how consistently the early game pressure came through with Dragon's Pack into Galakon. And now, hopefully the nerf to Corrupted Elements list should make that a little bit harder.
Yeah, I was also wondering if Elementals would stay anything close to what it was in terms of... If you wonder why we're talking like this, by the way, it's because this game is clearly almost over. Let's show what happens, then we'll change our minds. How you can actually invoke twice. You compare it to any of the other Galakon decks, they take so long to get Galakon useful.
Yeah.
So I thought it might rework that, but for now it's worked out well. They promised more to look at it again after the holiday season. But I haven't seen anyone complaining, or anyone sensible complaining that it's that bad at the moment.
Yeah, we'll have to see after things settle down a little bit. I think people have found decent enough lists for the deck with the Witch's Brew in there, Hex in some lists as well.
Mm-hmm.
Looking pretty good.
Sounds like a Darek deck, nice mid-rangey,
Oh, you love to see it.
tootling around sort of deck. Lots of interactions. It's a very Darek-y deck.
As in, just not quite as good.
That is your favourite style, though, isn't it? Lots of interactions and lots going on. Well, setting up as much as they can towards lethal next turn.
Yeah, a final all-in push. Holy Wrath, and I think
Yeah.
that means that Cheval is just the last card if
Yep.
we've been keeping track.
Thunder's keeping track. He
There we
knows.
go.
25 to the mush. Right. Arena 1-0. And big deal because the Shaman counter lost the Shaman.
It did. I appear to have made the mistake of not turning the lights on, despite the fact that it's only 4 p.m. It's already gone pitch black here in sunny.
And you're not even in Scotland anymore, right?
I know, yeah. I'm down in the British Riviera, down in the south. How lovely, as it's pouring with rain, absolutely freezing cold. But anyway, here in Hammond, sunny Hearthstone world, we got another match coming up. The Rogue up against the Shaman. The two real premier decks at the moment in one form or another. The real culprit, it feels like, or the target for a lot of the community's hatred definitely feels like the apothecary versions, oftentimes with the Ubersath in there as well, in order to buff up all your minions. This version, which I think is the Highlander version of Rogue, which Hong Kong are
I'll
going
just double
for.
check. I think it is too. That's what I've got on my notes.
The Highlander Rogue is, I think, definitely a little bit more acceptable in terms of power level. I mean, I think the argument could actually be made that this is the most powerful version of Rogue, because there's a lot of whisperings amongst the community that the version with Anuvisath Warbringer and the Necreum Apothecary is not that powerful. It's just a kind of high roll deck that people are getting annoyed at, because you know, the Apothecary comes down on 3 or 4 and then you lose a lot of the time. But if they don't find that, they will lose a lot of the time.
Yeah, the likeness to Barnes is inescapable.
It is, yes.
But I mean, we are seeing it was Possessi who created that deck and did keep it to himself. So Japan are the only team in this tournament with that deck.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, I'm rooting for them. Anyone who can discover that deck. Obviously, it was there to be discovered. Someone was going to find it, because it wasn't. It's always easy after to say, oh yeah, it wasn't particularly hard to find. But he's the one who actually found it really quickly. Played it on ladder because playtesting it is quite difficult, and didn't announce where he was on ladder, which I think was rank 13 from memory.
Not bad.
Yeah, notes agree. Rank 13. Then that's why everybody started playing on Monday, where it's like, okay, this is my deck I've been playing, and by the way, it's my HGG deck. And then everything went crazy on Monday. Every stream just had Rogue versus Rogue top 100 legend mirrors, leading people to think it was busted.
I found my version of Necreum Apothecary. Oh wow, I found my Apothecary.
Yeah, exactly. Suddenly everybody knew how to build it. There were versions already about with dragons and cairns and that sort of thing. We will see some of those this weekend.
So what are we looking at now for Narina? Obviously, the potential to just go max pressure right out the gate with, well, I guess you could even throw the mutate in there as well, but I was just thinking Sludge Slurper could have come down on that turn to push as much pressure as possible. However, floats a mana this turn in order to be able to curve out into the Maniac on the following turn. I think that's smart. You just want to be making sure you're spending as much mana as possible over the next few turns to fight for tempo early against the Rogue.
Yeah, lines up nicely on 6 if it comes to as well. Just play the remaining hand out. But Mutate is just so good in this deck. Like, everyone concentrates on the Mogu, but it's just good on all of the cards.
Yeah, it really is.
They're all understatted with an ability.
Like the Devoted Maniac here could be an insanely powerful turn. Devoted, rush in the 2-1 and the 1-1, and then mutate into a 5-drop. That's very strong.
Seems good. Just depends whether you want to save that for next turn, where you can have an equally powerful turn, but I like it now.
Yeah, same. Sooner rather than later. Whoa! Waxidred as well is pretty good.
And the Shaman has already done so much with the aid of that mutate. I saw the Alexstrasza picked up. I thought, that's good for the Rogue. That's 5 turns away. Well, 4 with a coin.
Mm-hmm.
And they really needed something handy to do here. Wonder how bad Force of Nature actually is here. Yeah, Fung's thinking the same thing, I think, from the face he's pulling.
Is it better than Demon Bolt? Like, you can get that down to, what, 4 mana quite easily? I guess maybe it's not better than just a proactive option. Problem with Force of Nature, of course, is Mogu. Like, you don't want to go too wide a lot of the time. They're going with Eureka, though.
Okay. And I think, judging by the giggling that is going on, they've decided to try and high roll something here.
Yeah.
I mean, like, okay, well, let's do this because it'll be funny, because we might actually high roll.
Yeah, they could get the Warbringer, but they've already kind of high rolled with Kragwa, because if they can extend that until they find Shadow Step, Kragwa Shadow Step is like that's an infinite combo that you can go for.
Yep.
Where you just keep stepping it back every turn. You know, if you can find something to go along with that, like an Eviscerate or a Sap or something like that, can be very,
they're just
very
in so
powerful.
much of a hurry, though. They're just dead.
Yeah.
So many options.
And that was kind of the problem with this deck. I think people had varied results, oddly enough, because it's a Highlander deck that people have played for one day, which tends to lead to very varied results. But
yeah,
when it has this sort of hand, it is just pretty garbage. depending what it's playing against.
Using the coin here is pretty good for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, it allows you to clear off the corrupted elementalist if you wanted to here. Oh, instead he's going to go for the Titanic Lackey. But I was going to say he could have gone for the Kragwa play, where he goes coin plus Praise Galakron and then Kragwa the turn after to get them both back to his hand.
I think they'd have loved to have gone for something like that. It's just, I don't know, it's just
yeah,
very
I guess
slow.
you're dying. Yeah. This maybe protects you from 7 damage, which is a big deal for sure. But as we all know, a 2-1 rush is never too far away when you're a shaman.
Yeah.
I will act as your scaled dragon.
Yeah, it's pretty desperate play there from Hong Kong. Well, good luck. What legendaries from other classes do 5 damage to the entire board? Not those.
Oh! Hyreek plus Anubisath combo. Or Malagos. That also works. I mean, he's just dead anyway, right? It doesn't make any difference. He can get a lackey, I guess. He can get a lackey.
Yeah.
So many options.
Just having the quick conversation they need to have about. So what does Malagos make again? We weren't playing this deck.
Does it make any 0 mana ones? I thought like Malagos's polymorph was the best you got. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think it made any 0 mana ones either. I think what happened there is they couldn't win, so they'd forgotten something. They decided to check. Because who knows? Maybe there's a 0 mana super blizzard.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even think it was necessarily their best shot. Like I'm trying to think if there were any lackeys they could have got there that protected them. I think it would have to be a spell off of Ethereal Lackey for them to have any chance.
Yeah, that sounds like the only way.
Either way, that is going to be the Shaman taking away kind of as expected, and now only the Rogue left for Hong Kong. I think it's in a pretty good spot against Chinese Taipei's lineup, in addition to the Warrior. So I think Hong Kong are in a decent spot here up against the Paladin and the Hunter.
Yep, 1 apiece, and we'll find out which of these two nations does go through to that top 4 on Sunday after this break. Welcome back to the winners match from Group A, which is basically the APAC group, and the European group is tomorrow. For the chance to get to the top 4 in this year's HGG, Hong Kong, Chinese Taipei tied at 1 apiece, and the Shamans are out of it. So now Hearthstone will break out.
Yeah, the loser of this match will be going on to face either New Zealand or Japan in the lower bracket, which will be our next match, New Zealand versus Japan, to fight for their tournament lives in Hearthstone Global Games 2019. And then obviously tomorrow we'll be going to the European bracket. You may be wondering, when are we going to the NA bracket? To which I say NA lull to you, as there are, well, not even NA, just no America's teams full stop left in the Hearthstone Global Games. A pretty dismal performance from them this year.
Which made scheduling nice and easy.
Yes, it did indeed. Yeah, it was very polite of them to just instantly drop out of the tournament.
Yeah, there were a couple gave it a go. Argentina, Mexico gave it a decent go, I think. But it is basically APAC versus Europe now, which is your adopted place and your birthplace. So
I guess so. Right.
Pirate
Tempo,
Warrior.
aggro, Pirate Warrior, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
up against Narina with what is not an especially good hand. It's a bit of a cop-out, but you can basically say with this deck, any hand that doesn't have Ankar in it is a pretty poor hand. It is ridiculously far ahead of any other card in terms of mulligan win rate percentages.
Yes.
If you find Anchor at the start of your game plan, you are very, very likely to win.
Yeah, I feel pretty offended that they've made a card with 3 R's in the end altogether. It's certainly
Anchor will...
victimization of casters at that point. But yeah, the second you don't get it, all your other cards tend to look a bit naff. Glad to see they're playing an upgrade. I've seen people not play upgrade, and I always wonder why you wouldn't.
Yeah,
Not just because it upgrades your Ankar, but also it just gives you a weapon that means the rest of your cards function properly.
Yeah. Gotta say, I was a little bit surprised by Fung's mulligan there. His other card was the Leroy, I believe, which obviously, yeah, you don't want that at the start of the game. But Bloodsail Raiders, a 2/3 is fine, I guess, but it's nothing especially groundbreaking. You want to make sure you're finding your 1-drop. You want to find Anchor, obviously, as well, to go with the aggression early on. And so I think, honestly, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of an aggressive mulligan for the really high power cards.
Yeah, especially when, what can go wrong? You've got a deck full of 1s and 2s and 3s anyway. So, yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm in favour of just mulliganing for your good stuff.
For sure.
Played too much of the previous meta Shaman, I think, where slowly but surely you stop mulliganing for everything apart from, like, hair.
Oh, yeah.
What now?
Good enough is no longer good enough.
Because you're going to get something that's good enough in the redraw anyway.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a tough choice here, actually, for Fung, because Frothing Berserker definitely feels like the card you want to get down more. But the difference between 4 and 5 health when you compare Skybarge and the Berserker is absolutely massive, because the only real answer here for Narina is True Silver. Exactly coin True Silver here to be able to take out the Frothing Berserker, which is a nightmare for Fung to be seeing here.
It is, but throwing it out there, forcing the coin out, forcing no card draw this turn. At least it's made them do something. You quite obviously didn't want it to happen, but now you can put down your 5 health, and this True Silver is looking a little bit wobbly suddenly.
I guess so, a little bit more so.
Obviously you don't want it, but playing it a turn later and not forcing to use the coin would be a lot worse.
And I guess this line also had the potential upside of maybe they just don't have the True Silver, and then if you're able to stick a Frothing, you are laughing all the way to the bank.
Yeah, Frothing's still one of the most irritating cards to deal with in all of Hearthstone.
Yep.
I wonder.
And 4 health against most things is just a good number.
Yeah, it's very, very survivable for a 3-drop for sure.
I am starting to think, the more I see of current Hearthstone, that 3 health is actually going to be underrated at the moment.
How so?
There's a lot of 2 attacks at the moment.
Oh, what? So you think that 3 health
do
is 3 health's good?
Yeah, like Albatross, I think might be better than people think, just as a raw minion.
Okay.
Simply
I guess
because
with all the
we use the 4/3s dying, but I'm not sure they die so easily now.
yeah, it's true with all the 2/1 rushes in Shaman and stuff like that, backstab in Rogue. I can see that.
And lackeys tend to do 2.
That's true.
Yeah, you know, so
Yeah.
just a thought that maybe 3 health is not what we thought it was. It's not a stats game. It's always been about what is the meta.
Yeah.
Sometimes 3 is a terrible number. Sometimes it's an amazing number.
Sometimes it's a magic number.
Another thing that made me realise this is actually seeing this Acolyte now, which is going to die to a 3/3, quite obviously, is how hard it is to kill Acolytes at the moment without getting
that's true.
cards.
They are often drawing a lot. But not now, though. Corruptor able to gorgeously take all this out. All the damage gets to go to the face, and these Horde Pillagers will be able to, hopefully, for Fung's sake, deliver the necessary damage to close things out. Because for Narina, he can heal up to not full, but a lot of damage, and very, very close to back to the starting health total. But you got to wonder if that's enough when there's still 13 damage on the board, another 5 coming with the Horde Pillager thereafter. I'm not sure if it's going to be enough.
Especially given you haven't made progress this turn.
Yeah.
It's not like you've dealt with anything. How much do you have to put in here to deal with it, though? Quite a difficult turn, actually.
What now?
Just an irritating 1/2 that can do so much damage if you don't take care of it, really holding up your army.
No tomb can hold me.
That
I definitely
hurts
favour
so
clearing it off here. I agree, it hurts, but if you just think about a Shavala coming down or something like that,
Yeah.
it's way too scary to be looping that up.
I think they're trying to calculate how to get next turn lethal up as well.
Yeah.
That's what you need to be doing every single turn when you're playing aggro. Sounds obvious, but the one turn where your opponent can't answer the question might be the only chance you get. I guess the question here is how much do you clear? There's not a lot. You don't want to time out, for sure.
I think you have to time out here, right? Like,
I think you can
really
hammer and then
take
time
this
out next
like
turn.
I just fell off my chair. in surprise.
Damn it, didn't like the play. Falls off chair. Brilliant. Yeah, I think going the other way, though, you can't take this much damage, but could you take even more damage the turn after?
Treasure? Loot? What more can I ask?
I guess so. If you can survive this, then maybe that's the time you need to pull things back.
However, surviving this, lol.
Yeah.
Not happening. Plenty of damage to the face, and very quick 2-1. And it's
Very nice
interesting
job. I think from Fung, the only real, gripe I would have with his game plan, I think, was the mulligan, which, you can make the argument it was okay because even though you say that the deck is all 1 and 2 drops, and at first glance, you agree with that, then you start to realize there's a few clunky cards in there, like the Pillagers are obviously very annoying until you've got a weapon destroyed. The Arcanite Reapers aren't good at the start. The Corcorons aren't good at the start. So maybe just holding on to those guaranteed early plays was okay. And it did, of course, work out for him in the end, getting the damage over the finish line.
Yep, 2-1, 1 away from reaching that top 4-1 game. But the Highlander Rogue still to come. We've already seen. I don't know if we can even judge how good this deck is. I saw various reports on Twitter when it was being played of it being anything from brilliant to no. And that just highlights how inconsistent it is for me.
I think with Highlander Rogue, like it's good. It is definitely a good deck. You know, you can play it in a tournament, you can play it on ladder, and you'll have a good amount of success. I'm just not certain that it is the best version of Rogue, because if you look at what Highlander Rogue is, it's kind of the crossroads of all the good archetypes of Rogue coming together, kind of predictably, because it only has one copy of each card. So you've got the Necreum Apothecary stuff in there, you've got the Togwaggle Lackey stuff in there, you've got the Galachrome stuff in there. One of those has to be the best thing, right? Like,
yes.
If you focus all in on Necreum Apothecary, is that better than Galacron? You need to test to find out. And obviously it's possible that having a little bit of all of them in there is the best thing you can do, but I think what is much more likely, and has proven to be the case in Hearthstone traditionally, focusing your deck on one thing in particular is generally a stronger way to go. And as has always been the case with Rogue, focusing on aggression and closing the game out quicker with strong tempo plays, I think will end up being the best deck, which probably comes in the form of Necreum Apothecary.
Irritatingly, I have to agree with you 100%. This was a good day 1 and 2 deck to go, okay, here's all the Rogue cards. Let's shuffle them together and see which ones we like. Basically, as a testing way, but somehow it made it into a mainstream deck. Hong Kong, by no means the only team to have brought this deck to this top 8, but it didn't feel like it was at all tuned up.
For sure, because if you remember back to last Sunday, people were still faffing about with what the best version of Death Rattle Rogue even was. Like you said, it kind of didn't exist really until the Monday after decks had been submitted, and then people were going, oh, you know, it has to be the version with Mechanical Whelp. That's the one you have to go for, right? 7/7s onto the board. And then people, of course, obviously clocked onto the Anubisath Warbringer, and then went for a kind of pseudo Quest Rogue version of the deck, or the old school Quest Rogue at least. And now players are saying maybe that's not the best deck again, despite all the public outcry against it.
I think it's the best of the Anubisath decks, the Warbringer version. That's my opinion. I feel that the version that tries to stabilize and just play some big stuff, like with Pharaoh Cats and such like, that deck's great, but I don't think, if you're going to play that, you might as well just play a normal Rogue deck.
I can see that.
If you're going to play the just pure Warbringer 4 version, you're doing something different that has a different game plan. But if you try and mix it up, I'd rather just play standard roguey stuff. Rather than trying, again, it's the mixing it up, the Pharaoh Cats and such like, with a bit of Anubis thrown in, seem to be just too clunky for me. You might as well just pick one. What do you want your deck to do?
So I'd say at the moment it's looking pretty good for Narina. That is, however, until we just saw a very, very crucial card being picked up by Kin. Flick Skyship pretty much rules out the possibility of Tempo Shavala in this matchup. I suppose I should amend that statement. You can still go for it as Narina. If you think it's your only chance of winning, that Flick is deep, deep down at the bottom of the deck and they haven't found it. But as soon as... Sorry, I just clipped the microphone. As soon as that comes down and Shavala is hit with Flick Skyship, the game pretty much just ends. You can try and win with Zephyrus and getting a bunch of Tyrians or Fireballs or anything like that. It rarely works.
Yeah, this feels like actually quite a good matchup for the Rogue, because it can just develop
for sure
quite happily. Have you killed your own stuff with Flick yet at any point? Most people
many
have.
times.
I actually haven't yet, but
really,
I've done other dumb things. That
you mean on purpose? Oh, okay, sorry.
No, I mean like by accident. Have you like killed their thing and then realised you've got one too? Or
I've done it by accident. I thought maybe you were talking about like a cool play where you deliberately target your own minion you think is in their hand, and I was like, nope, I have not done anything that clever.
No, I was asking if you've done something dumb, Derek. I'm not going to make you look good on stream. Come on.
First instinct here for me is definitely just to go for the Shrink Ray to take 8 damage off the board, but I guess you can maybe try and trap a little bit more than just the 2 Corruptors here. So maybe it's a timeout turn to try and extend it and then catch more minions in your Pyro plus Shrink Ray.
Yeah. Timeout is so crucial. They do have the double healing coming up as well with the flash.
Deliberately overdraw one of their 1-cost cards first, or 1 attack cards first, sorry. with the Crystology in order to make sure they're drawing something more impactful off the top. I think that's the correct order if you want to play Crystology, and I think you probably do to get through to your combo quicker, so I like that order a lot.
Yeah, the actual cards you draw aren't necessarily that important.
Yes.
Just because your deck doesn't do anything until it wins.
Eye for an eye, Lorinda. Eye for an eye.
What, run it?
Is that the nuts?
Look at it! The card that's just been found for Kin, like 25 damage reflected back to the opponent's face.
That's really funny.
If he times that correctly, that could end us in a draw.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. I suppose the counterplay is going for timeout before the Shavala combo, but obviously if you don't know that the eye for an eye is there until right at the end, you're probably going to use it beforehand. Pretty funny.
Yeah, I like it. It's just funny. Haven't seen a draw for a long time. We came really, really close in the early groups in some Warrior mirrors. But the good old eye for an eye draws, we haven't seen them for years.
Like, fatigue counter drawing is almost cheating, it feels like. I want a good old-fashioned Hellfire to kill both players draw.
Yeah. Haven't had one of those for a long time, though. They might come back.
You never know.
People trying to make Warlock work.
Right, Togchamp hitting the board and going for, I'd have to imagine, draw here, just to keep things going. Yeah, it's a rare opportunity where you don't go for the wand as the first option off of Togwaggle.
Yeah, the other option is to think about it for a while and then take wand. You've got two choices.
Yeah.
And I think if you try and go for the corner cases, unless you're absolutely sure, you'll just be wrong.
I wonder.
The light bends to my will.
So yeah, here's the Kangor heel turn. Handy for making some board space, or some hand space. Shows how my brain processes the deck when I call it board space twice in one day. Ooh. Just look at the rogue hand. It just obviously it's fine, but this Highlander rogue can't be right, can it?
There's definitely some optimizations to be made. I'm not even sure if they're exact deck list. Let me look at it up. Like, yeah, a lot of the builds now run Siamat, whereas their build does not, instead of a bit more early game, which is obviously not necessarily a mistake. But I agree. There's definitely some big optimizations to be made here, even if you still stick with the Highlander version of the deck, ignoring the other possibilities completely.
So they're not going to go for the overdraw. There was no reason. In the match earlier, went for the overdraw because they refused to archer their own acolyte, so it made sense to force the overdraw. Because they've shown you that they didn't want to draw the cards.
Yeah.
But here, very different. You don't overdraw without a good reason. So the opposite is true. They've thrown down the acolyte and just said, "Okay, well, hit me."
All right, what's coming down with the wand? I suppose it doesn't have to be played here. We could see a Nubasath. Oh, sorry, Kartuk Defender instead.
And the taunts are relevant to some degree. Obviously, they get blown up at some point, but it feels like a slow process getting a lot of attack on the board. It's all going to come down to the flick shenanigans.
I wonder.
8 cards left for the Paladin. They've got a board clear, a timeout. That's worth 3 or 4 of those cards. They're nearly there.
Do they have a board clear? Can they clear off the 3-1?
Perhaps they can't clear the 3-1.
Yeah, this is fine though. It allows them to obviously get the swing in without taking the damage. They heal for a little bit. Hopefully force the rogue to overextend.
And now they've got the board clear set up for the next turn.
Alright, let's draw 3. Oh. Ooh. That's
Mechanical World's actually better than the Edwin here, isn't it?
Yeah. Like you're
Because it's going to survive.
probably holding on to the Edwin for a turn here because you're definitely expecting a full board wipe on this turn.
Yeah.
I think at least.
Oh, nice use of the sap just to slow things down one turn.
Sure. Yep. I think that's pretty clever.
So anything else you need to throw down there?
You've got to remember as well.
I just need to do one more damage because I've got Eye for an Eye.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I was just about to bring up. That even though I thought it was a bit of a meme at first, the Eye for an Eye could just be locking out the game here for Kin because one timeout has already been used. Once the second timeout comes down, it becomes very difficult for Narina to not be dead as soon as it goes for the combo.
And if it's a draw, Hong Kong win. Because both teams will get one win.
Right. Yes. Yes. I think you're correct.
I think it only isn't that when it's 2-2.
Okay. Sure.
Could be wrong. Because armor timers and draw timers are treated slightly differently.
Yeah.
And we've only ever dealt with armor timers.
Reporting for duty. I must move quickly.
It could have been a Shivala shuffle there. There's no way you go for the Shivala now, right, without shuffling.
It doesn't seem wise, but there are 14 cards left in the deck from Hong Kong. It depends where Chinese Taipei think they are.
Because again, you got to remember, the thing is, playing Shivala at any point other than killing your opponent means you just lose to Flick Skyship, pretty much.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, that's absolute. It's just a case of there's a lot of cards left. Maybe if you think you're in that much trouble, maybe you just do it. But sensibly, they feel that they have got time, which seems correct.
So I'm thinking, oh, is it a big Edwin turn? Is that actually an overextension? There's not that much pressure left in Kin's hand at this point when you think about it. Yeah, he's just going to hold off. Seems reasonable. You want to have one more big threat left afterwards.
Yeah. Although it's nice to threaten lethal, but you know you're probably not delivering lethal just yet.
So Narina here is threatening lethal if he can hit the if he can hit the Shivala. What would it be? 1 out of 6 because he wouldn't be able to go for the double shuffle. And still have mana for Zephyrus. Obviously, I'm talking about Shivala shuffle, rush the Shivala into the 4/5, 4 damage from the weapon. Zephyrus will have 1 mana left over to offer Soulfire or whatever it is for lethal after that point. And maybe that's his best chance of winning if he's not able to play the Shivala without dying.
But also, maybe he can do that next turn. If he doesn't think he's dying this turn.
Sure. Yeah. If he can extend it for 1 turn, why not?
I must move quickly.
And then Shrink Ray. Yeah, sure. And then time out the turn after as well. Oh, maybe this is going to be enough for Narina.
He's finding a way to just sort of hang in there as long as possible to either guarantee it or at least to raise those odds. I think the main discussion here for...
I was going to say, wouldn't it be so sick if Highlander Rogue randomly generated a Shivala off of like a Blink Fox or something and then played it for 0 mana and then flicked it?
Kill their own Shivala to ruin your opponent's day. That would be amazing. It's going to happen at some point.
Has to.
Probably in a big final somewhere. Also, I think the main thing here is the timing of this Eye for an Eye.
Yes,
you might as well
thing.
do it sooner rather than later. Well, sorry, you might as well do it before. Yeah, you don't want to be too late. You'd rather be too early. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, especially as one of the things you have to consider is you either want to have them at 18 or less health, so that the 7 heal from Shivala won't heal them above 25, or you want to have nothing on board, so their Shivala can't rush in and heal above 25.
Yeah. And you also, even though they'll work out, it's almost certainly eye for an eye. You can give them problems playing around. Maybe Noble Sacrifice you can represent a bluff somehow, so they don't play around it. Maybe.
Right, lethal quite clearly set up now for Kin. And the problem is actually that now is it not lethal for Narina in any way?
Let's see. It's all about mana.
Are there any 1-mana cards that deal damage to a minion and a hero? We need Rain and Fire here, the Warlock card, that would be lethal.
Silence isn't enough.
Whirlwind, obviously minions only. Well, I mean, I guess the important thing is he can just go timeout to extend it for another turn, of course.
Yeah, if you've got a plan.
If you've got a plan, sure.
Trying to work out this way you can kill your own Chevalier for now, and then wait that way. But that seems really weird.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's never a situation where you can do that, or if it's even correct.
Okay, well there's the one they need.
Man, this Ziliax is such a nightmare for Narina. He just doesn't have any outs for lethal.
Quite cheeky though, making the 1/1 on board. If he gets ignored, then you've got lethal again available.
Sure, if he doesn't trade in the 1/1 here. If the 1/1 dies here, yeah.
It's just a sneaky way to try and set up a lethal. I think that was their plan.
Like, weirdly enough, the Elven Archer that he burned earlier in this game would provide lethal here.
Yeah.
Because he'd have 1 mana left over for Moonfire.
Yeah, it is one of the things that is known about the deck, that extra 1 damage, but not in this weird setup here.
Either way, I think it's probably coming down to Narina just basically saying, well, you can't have Flick Sky Shiv because if you do, I lose the game.
Yeah, they've still got 11 cards left. It is correct, I think, probably just to go for it now.
Yeah. It was arguably correct just to go for it earlier if he doesn't think he'll be able to get through, but it was really just the Ziliax coming down that put such an impossibility on Narina being able to get any kind of lethal.
It is double elimination. Assuming they do lose this, they will go down to the lower bracket, but still have a chance of getting through. They will play the winners of the game between New Zealand and Japan. Assuming they do lose this.
And I think even if Kin is starting to smell that something is not quite right here, a quick eye for an eye should be able to just keep him alive no matter what. Or Galacron.
Yeah, the Galacron, that extra 5 armor is just massive.
Oi, oi, oi. Oh!
Oh, wow.
Oh, ho, ho, ho.
Did you see Tyler's wonderful dragon error yesterday?
No, I did not.
He got the newest server and played it before he played his Zephyrus. So there's 6 dragon portals in the deck.
Oh, right.
So the lethal didn't work. He looked at the screen for like a second, wondering where the office of cards were before it dawned on him what he'd done.
I mean, I was just thinking the same thing. Like, why is that bad? What does it offer you there?
It didn't offer anything. It was great.
Yeah, let's decimate. Heal for 4, deal 5.
I'm almost out of cards.
I wanted to see eye for an eye happen.
Me too.
I'm horrible like that.
I think it's pretty much a lock anyway, right? Because if Shavala comes down to deal the 25 damage, he just flicks it away and then wins the game.
Let me think.
It's time.
Flicks it away.
Flicks it away. Like an old bogey.
I will split your soul apart.
Oh my goodness. I've missed casting you, Derek.
Yeah,
You
it's
thought
the
so much about teams.
ultimate push onto the board now with Chevaliers, but as impressive as all this is, it's just not good enough.
And it does make you wonder, actually, if they left it a bit late. Because there were about 13 or 14 cards left in deck when we started talking about this. And we can see it would have made no difference. The Flicks was there all along. But it has gone from 13 or 14 cards down to 7. Their chances of actually getting lucky have gone down significantly because of that.
I think I liked Narina's approach to this game anyway, because I agree, his game plan could have just been go to earlier on, say they can't have the Flick or I lose the game. But they're... I think their plan of just trying to go for lethal with Shavala at a slightly later date was probably even better than that. It was just a very specific outcome with the Ziliax that stopped them from being able to do that.
Oh, now Kin plays the eye for an eye. Now there's no Chevalers left. Well, thanks, Kin. Well, they play around that all right.
I wasn't actually sure if eye for an eye would trigger there. I've never... But it turns out 0 equals 0 and therefore does not proc it.
Who knew? And Hong Kong are our first semi-finalists after that result. So congratulations to them. That will be on Sunday. But the rest of the 2 days, we're going to find out who the other 3 teams are going to be. Chinese Taipei still in with a great chance. And they'll be facing against either New Zealand or Japan. And we're going to find out who that is after this break.